Oh guys, have I got a funny story for you. So I'm abroad at the moment and I'm getting a bit of sea, sun and sand. I'm taking a break from business and things like that because it helps refresh your creative juices. Once you come away and disconnect from your environment, things get a lot clearer in your head and you can step back a little bit and you can see the bigger picture and you can come up with a brand new strategy or change things, right? One of the strategies I'm going to have going forward is I've got a bunch of products and automations and I want to get it to reach more people. And a good way to do that is to pair up with influencers who have big audiences and then stick my product like in front of their audience and then they take a cut for it, right? So I get paid because I get to reach more people and they get paid because they get a cut of a product which they don't even have to do anything with. They're just using their audience, right? And it's going quite well. And I was in touch with this big business influencer. He's got tons and tons and tons of followers and subscribers on different platforms, and I explained the idea to him and he liked the idea, and it was going really well on the DMs back and forth, and we agreed to meet at a restaurant. This is 2 weeks ago. We agreed to meet at a restaurant to have a bit of dinner, meet each other and iron out some of the details, right? And we arrive at this restaurant. I've got my friend with me. He's got a few of his friends with him. And we sat down having dinner. And I don't know what it was, but when you just get that vibe from someone that they're not the best person, right? Maybe they're a little bit narcissistic or there's something not quite right there. Anyway, I got this vibe right at the start. And when we were ordering food, we all order starters first. And the waiter brings over the starters. They bring it over to me, they bring it over to him. And they put the starter in front of him and they gave him the wrong starter, right? It's not the food he asked for. So fair enough, he asks the waiter to bring him the starter he actually ordered. And when he hands the plate back to the waiter, and when he does it, he rams it into the waiter's chest, right? Like in a way to assert dominance. And I think to myself, did he just do that? Did he just actually do that deliberately? It's hard to tell in a situation like that because I wasn't even looking out for it. I didn't even expect him to do something like this. So, anyway, fast forward a few minutes and I'm a little bit on edge now, right? And the waiter comes back with his food and the waiter puts it in front of him and he starts frigging roasting this waiter right in front of everyone, right? He starts roasting him, telling him off right in front of the whole table, in front of the restaurant, calling him frigging incompetent, right? I'm thinking to myself, this guy, there's something wrong with him. He's just not got any people skills, right? Spending half his time bragging about the money and then starts insulting this waiter. And I'm thinking to myself, I want to get the hell out of here by now. I'm pissed at this point, right? And I think to myself, you know what? I haven't quite got the excuse to leave at the moment, so I'm just going to have my meal with this guy and I'm going to tell him afterwards that I don't think it's going to work out. I'm just going to make an excuse, right, why I don't really want to work with this guy, even though this deal would benefit me massively. We're eating our starters still and I'm just staying quiet. I've got this bad taste in my mouth. And anyway, this guy then turns to my friend and looks at my friend's watch and starts basically insinuating that it looks cheap, right? He starts saying this to my friend who he doesn't even know. And my friend is not a materialistic guy. He doesn't drive a fast car. He doesn't have flashy watches or anything like that. But make no mistake about it, he earns money, right? And I can tell my friend's getting a little bit uncomfortable. And by this point, guys, I've had absolutely enough of this conversation. So I ask the waiter who's walking past for the bill. And everyone looks a little bit shocked at the table. He's like, oh, why are you getting the bill now? The guy says, this influencer guy. And I say, well, I'm getting the bill now because I'm going, right? And we sit in awkward silence for the next 2 minutes. At restaurants, how sometimes the waiter takes a long time to bring things. Well, this was only 2 minutes, but it felt like a long time. We just sat there in awkward silence. I'm completely disinterested in this conversation now. And the waiter eventually brings over the bill. He also brings over the card machine as well. I pay for me and my friend. And this guy, he's starts saying about how he thought things were going well, how I'm making a mistake. He sat there, he's insulted the waiter, he's insulted my friend. He's just done nothing but brag about his money. This little mid-20-year-old. My friend makes more money than him, right? We're all at the table. None of us are broke at this table, right? So we all try and be a nice person. Not him, though. And I couldn't resist the urge anymore. I paid for my meal. And he's like, why are you leaving? Why are you leaving? He's getting a bit aggravated. And I say, I'm leaving because you're a stupid, rude bitch. Right? And the whole table goes silent. Everyone gets dead tense. And everyone's probably getting dead tense because they think to themselves that nobody's ever really spoke to this guy like this before. You know, if a person's got a big ego, most people don't challenge them on it, particularly if you're friends and he's the well-off one out of you. You don't really challenge him on it. And I left the restaurant, and I will never speak to that guy again. And I think the point of me telling you this story is that so many people focus on, when I get DMs in my inbox, oh, what's the best message to say? All these tactical things, right? How should I sell to this person? What should I put in my funnel there? What should I put on my website? Things like this. But they forget that people skills is literally the most important thing that you can learn, because it doesn't matter if you're doing things automated through marketing. It doesn't matter if you're selling to someone over the phone. What does matter is that you can manage people. You know, I used to manage a bar. I was a bartender first. I used to manage a bar. And then I've been an entrepreneur for years as well. I've worked in a bunch of different conflict environments. And because of this, I've got very good at reading people. I'm very good at making friends with people. And I'm very comfortable at being confident in situations like that, because most people would have just let that pass and they'd have partnered with this guy. This guy was so narcissistic and so self-focused and had such a big ego, he probably would have ripped me off at some point, right? Because he just prioritizes himself and his ego. This person would be high on the dark triad list, right? So that's narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy. But because I did that, I'll never speak to him again now. I won't do business with him. And because I did this, because people with big egos and big audiences, they hear about things like this from each other. Some other guy reached out to me who's also an influencer with a big audience. Is like, hey, I hate that guy as well. Why don't me and you partner up? So now I'm partnering up with this other guy, all because I had the balls and the backbone to stand up. So you should be focusing on people skills where possible, right? There's tons of great books out there. Learn to read people. It's like the most important skill. The planet is ran by people. Learn to read people, learn to make friends with people. There's How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's a great book. Hexico, what's it called? H Factor of Personality. That's a book recommended by Ty Lopez, which teaches about like how to identify people who are honest, who are humble, and the people who are the reverse of that as well. You know, the people who are bad, and how to pick them out, how to pick people out who are on the dark triad as well. Educate yourself on these things, guys, because it will pay off more than just learning about sales and marketing. Start learning about psychology and how people work, right? And, you know, you will get way more money than just learning about all the basic things that all the gurus online are telling you about. How to send out this message with this headline. Learn about people, learn about psychology. You know, I lived in an apartment a few years ago, and the landlord was selling the apartment, and he sent round a property developer to look at the apartment, right? And most people, when this property developer goes around the houses, or, you know, the landlord goes around the houses, they basically just don't even talk to the guy. They say hi, and then they don't talk to him. I actually took the time to get to know this guy. I spoke to him, I learned all about his business. I was dead interested in his property development business, and I was talking about what he does to essentially get more business, right? This guy ended up becoming a client because I talked to him, I listened to him, I made friends with him. This wasn't like a deliberate act, it's just because I've picked things up over time that you should be nice to people, right? And I listened to him, I made friends with him, talked to him about funnels, talked to him about marketing. I actually did, so I built like a website for him, built like a funnel for him, did bits of marketing for him. He paid me very, very well for that, all from one conversation. Nobody, he's been a property developer for 30 years. Not a single person, he said, has ever got to know him and found out like his problems like I did in the space of like a 20-minute conversation, right? Learning people skills is like one of the number one things you should be doing. Screw what all these other influencers say. Screw what people talking about, like, oh, you should say this in a message. Yeah, that's important, right? But once you get the art of actually being able to manage people, being able to handle people, being able to resolve conflicts, being able to read people, you will do much, much better. And you won't also get ripped off either. I've been ripped off before, and it's very, very painful. It's because I started, and reading people online over video is much harder to read than reading people in person, right? So then I had to learn that skill as well, and I'm fine there, right? I should be getting used to reading people up. It's funny because this influencer guy who I ended up leaving the restaurant and calling him a stupid, right? It turns out later, I heard a rumor that like basically he grew up, he's like mid-20s, but I heard that he grew up with loads and loads of money, right? From rich parents. So he's not even earned the money himself. And he's still so friggin' entitled that he thinks he could judge other people, right? And just walks over other people. Imagine that. Imagine being that personality when you've not even earned your own money. Crazy. Get good at reading people, guys. Take it easy. See you later.